I'm focused on his spirit cause it keeps me from his fire. The Holy Ghost is with me, so my fear I leave behind. My sins were all diminished when he took that breath and died. And if you think I'ma give up on my God, the devil is a lie. The devil is a lie. The devil is a lie.
Hello, this is Christina Barr, and you're watching Black Teen News. Hello, welcome to Black Teen News. I'm your host, Christina Barnes. Today, we're going to be talking about the presidential debate that happened last night, and I've got so many thoughts today. If you follow me on TikTok, I already posted a lot of thoughts on there yesterday. So last night, as it was happening, and I tweeted out some stuff, maybe as much as I usually do during these things, but oh boy. Hello. But we're going to talk about the debate the entire time. Not going to really get into other subjects really. So that'll be the focus of there's plenty to say to fill an hour. I promise you. But before we jump into everything, I want to encourage you guys to go to blacknews.com, check out different content on my website, different articles, videos, etc. Things that I've debunked, things that are important, like so many things. Kamala Harris said so many things last night. Trump got fact checked. She didn't get fact checked, live fact checked. And even after the live, there's not just a live fact check, there's fact checkers like Dale something. I think Dale's his last. I don't know if it was the first time it was last night, but there's a CNN fact checker who's their like main fact checker, and he only caught one lie from Kamala Harris apparently. And it's just remarkable. It's remarkable. I have a rant about the media. Maybe I'll start off with that before we get into the actual debate, because their behavior last night and today is so egregious. It's so egregious. And it's dangerous. It really is dangerous, but go to the website, check out different stuff, articles, and so on. Please check out the debunked 10 hoaxes video that I made that it covers things like the Very Fine People hoax that came up last night and was not fact checked. So you guys can check that out. Please share that stuff around different places. You guys can check out different merch that's available. We got the GOAT hoodie and the GOAT t-shirts that stands for greatest of all time. I got other t-shirts, which, by the way, I have a greatest of all time. I have Washington, Lincoln, Reagan, and Trump on there. My family did see the Reagan movie last night. We were going to see it last week on my sister's birthday, but there was a showing that was too late. And so we saw The Forge, which was really good. So they asked me, did I want to see Reagan? I said yes. And they're like, but we got to go like when the debate happens. And I'm like, no, I can't go see it then. So they all went to go see it. And I watched the debate over at my parents' house. And so I was basically alone for a good chunk of the time. And I was showing out. I would have been a meme if I was live recording the debate. I would have been a viral meme person. From some of my reactions last night. So anyway, sorry, got a little distracted there. But yeah, Reagan they said they enjoyed Reagan, that it was pretty good. So recommend you guys checking that out. I have to check it out myself. And you guys can check out other merch that's available in the store, like this My Money, My Business shirt, which I made because if people want to fund abortion with taxpayer dollars like Kamala Harris wants to, you can't just say my body, my choice. It's like, no, it involves everybody when you start collecting people's, confiscating people's money to pay for it. So that's one of the many reasons why I made this particular shirt, but there's more merch there. If you want to support, you guys can go to the website, donate there. You guys can also give stars on Facebook. You guys can also do super chats on YouTube. I want to give a shout out to everyone that's in the chat. Chat is already busy, at least on YouTube, Facebook, where you at? But I appreciate you guys commenting. Commenting does help more people see the stream, see the live. YouTube has very much been trying to suppress me. So is Facebook. It seems like Facebook's maybe getting a little bit better as of late, but they're really trying to suppress my channel. People who followed have said that they've been unfollowed and all kinds of different stuff. So make sure that you guys are still following, that you're subscribed, that you hit the notification bells so you get notifications when I'm going live or I post a new video. Thank you guys for sharing and subscribing and putting in your email for different notifications that way. I very much support you guys. I very much appreciate your support. So let's hop to it. You know how Donald Trump would say that the media is, well, let me first say it was 3 versus 1 with the 2 moderators and Kamala Harris versus Donald Trump. That is undeniable. They fact checked him. They didn't fact check her. Which she obviously did lie. They interrupted him. They were going back and forth with him a bit. And it was just not appropriate. The CNN debate was handled much better, which CNN, apparently they were upset about the mics being muted and felt like they actually helped them. So they're kind of lamenting that a bit. So you just kind of see that the media is out to get him, and he's not paranoid when he says that. Sometimes he really complains about folks, but it is true. They are out to get him. And even the questions that they asked were obviously tilted to attack him rather than attacking her. She's in the administration where she is the incumbent. She's not the president, but she's the vice president. And if people are unhappy, which Americans seem to be unhappy with the state of the world today, a lot of the questions should have been directed toward her and not so much at him. I'm not saying that questions about January 6th and other stuff weren't appropriate or whatever, especially when he still, talks about things and tweets things. And he tweeted something recently that made it into a question. But why not ask questions about the ACLU report that came out the other day, or because some journalists are like, that's crazy. Trump accused saying that she wants to pay for trans migrant surgeries. That she literally said that. She literally said that. That was in the news the other day. It's a literally true thing that happened. But it's just amazing. They didn't really ask questions about inflation, or they didn't ask questions about Kamala Harris. You want to tax, unrealized gains, and you want to do price caps, and people have said that this really shows that you have financial illiteracy and that you could destroy the stock market. What do you have to say about that? There weren't questions like that, but there were questions like, Donald Trump, you said this about Kamala Harris's race, which is predictable that they asked that question. Don't get me wrong, he should have been really ready for it, but things were so skewed against him. Now, it's that's very clear. And if you're not a bad actor, I don't know how you can watch the debate and not come to that kind of conclusion. However, this was all predictable. Trump knew that they're against him, and he doesn't like them too much either. I don't think people expected this level of unprofessionalism from ABC. I think it shocked a lot of people. But Donald Trump missed so many opportunities to come for Kamala Harris. His job was to prosecute her, to list her past, to list her radical past. He did in some regards, but he missed so much. And she set him up, and he took the bait basically every single time. Joe Biden tried to bait him and to get under his skin in their debate, and with calling him a felon and other kind of stuff like that. Trump didn't really take the bait with Joe, but Kamala Harris, she obviously baited him. And I would say, that she did win this debate. Okay. And it's not because she's particularly talented. It's not because she's particularly that smart or conniving or whatever. I mean, she's conniving, I guess, but she's not that talented. Like, it was very obvious what she was doing. And he just, went along with it. I was talking to somebody earlier, and it was like he fell out of a tree and hit every branch on the way down. I said, and it wasn't just any kind of tree. It was a coconut tree, and it was, I guess they're not really structured like that, but she says the thing about the coconut tree. So we laughed anyway, but just at how remarkable it was. And it doesn't bring me any joy. If you've been following me for a while, you probably know that out of all of the politicians, modern politicians that I dislike, Kamala Harris is probably at the top of the list. She is probably at the very tippity freaking top. Okay? So I hate it last night. Even though I've been telling you guys, hey, for the folks out there who think he's just going to smack her around or whatever and just dominate, I wouldn't say that cuz he's messed up at debates and she didn't actually do that awful against Mike Pence. If you've been following me, you know that I've been saying that. So I wasn't prepped for him to just demolish her and knew that there's a possibility that she could win. But it still ticked me off, man. It still ticked me off. It disappointed me. And I know some people are like, we were watching two different debates. You can feel how you feel. Everybody can feel how they feel. But she obviously set him up and distracted him. And I will tell you things that they missed and he didn't say and things that she brought up and so on. And I'm going to play you guys some clips. But that's my summary. But to the media being extraordinarily dangerous. Okay. She told some lies last night. A very notable lie. She brought up the very fine people hoax. She knows that's a lie. Joe Biden knows it's a lie. The media knows it's a lie. But she brought it up. Okay? She also claimed that under Roe v. Wade, you can't do late term abortions. Joe Biden made that lie too, because they're trying to get away from just flat out saying, I support abortion, no restrictions. Anytime, if a woman wants it, then she can get it. They try to just say, I support Roe v. Wade. That's what I support. Roe v. Wade has always allowed states to have no restrictions on abortion. So saying you support Roe v. Wade is just saying that if states want to allow abortion up until the moment of birth, then they can do that. That is true under Roe v. Wade. And there are states that have always done late-term abortion, even for healthy, viable pregnancies. You can look up clinics like Warren Hearn out of Colorado. The Atlantic did a puff piece on him. Like maybe it was last year. We went over the story. So people in pro-life circles know this. People in pro-life circles have called abortion clinics. So someone from secular pro-life went to a clinic, I think in DC, while she was very pregnant, and they didn't care about like whether it was a healthy pregnancy and other stuff like that. There's been undercover work, but you can just go look at their laws. And you can say, well, women wouldn't do that. Women wouldn't carry a baby to full term and basically do that. There's been different peer-reviewed studies about women who have abortions late term and reasons why they have them. They're very similar to reasons why women have them early. And even if they want to kill their baby because of some kind of fetal anomaly, that doesn't mean that they're going to die. It could just mean they have Down syndrome. It could mean they have a deformed foot or something like that. It doesn't mean that the baby doesn't have a brain or something like that. They could literally just be killing a kid with Down syndrome. But women, their financial status could change. Maybe they didn't have the money for the abortion before, and now they do. Maybe their partner left them. Maybe they found out they were pregnant really late. Maybe they just really wrestled with the decision and decided that, you know what, I just can't do this. Okay? It's not pleasant to think about, but it is a pleasant fiction to believe that women only abort in these super tragic circumstances when it's really late. And by the way, abortions after 21 weeks are still like 10,000 abortions a year. That's not a lot compared to all the other abortions that happen, but it's still a lot compared to things that we're up in arms about as a nation. Everybody marching in 2020 about unarmed Black men being killed by police. And that number is like 20. So don't tell me that it's not a big deal. They wouldn't lie about it so much. But then to be like, it only happens in certain circumstances. Okay, well, life of the mother, that's covered. There's states like Florida that says fetal anomaly. It has exceptions for that. So why won't you just say that, yeah, we should ban it after that time with those restrictions? Because they want women who are healthy to still be able to have an abortion if that's what they want, because their ethic is my body, my choice. That's their ethic. And the logical conclusion to that is no restrictions. So they got to say women wouldn't do that, but they also are like, oh, Roe v. Wade doesn't allow late-term abortions. Blatantly, it's a blatant lie. It's a blatant lie. Joe Biden told it. Kamala Harris told it on the debate stage to try to, I don't know, put a cloud over the fact that she's for no restrictions. Now, other people have been more bolder than that, like Beto O'Rourke has just flat out said it and stuff. But it's a lie, okay? So journalists today and last night have been like, well, Trump was fact-checked because he's the one who lied. He's the one who lies. Kamala didn't lie. We only found one lie, Kamala Harris said. Donald Trump, he told all these lies. We found like 30-something lies for Donald Trump. We just found one for Kamala Harris. It's not true. It's not true. And even like times when he was saying stuff about her, like the Minnesota Freedom Fund, she's like, no, like mouthing it like that's not true. I didn't help writers, like violent people, get bailed out, which is not true. I mean, she's lying. It is true that she helped to bail out those people. But I want to show you this tweet from Abby Phillips. Okay. She said, just FYI, when there is asymmetrical lying, there will be asymmetrical fact checking. Okay. So they're justifying the fact that Donald Trump was live fact checked in a debate and basically became the moderators became a second and third opponent. They are justifying it and covering for Kamala Harris, even though she lied about objectively easy things to fact check, to debunk, things that people should know. So the fact that they would lie about these things, guys, the fact that they would cover for her makes this alliance between the media and the Democrats so dangerous. It is very frustrating that Donald Trump did not rise to the occasion last night, because someone needs to. Someone needs to. And it's unfortunate he didn't rise to this moment. And there's a long list of Republicans who would have been in the same situation last night and just totally skewered her alive. Totally skewered her alive. Some of them are Trump surrogates. Many of them are his surrogates. Governor Ron DeSantis, for example, Vivek. And now you guys know I'm not too fond of Vivek, but Vivek would have skewered her alive. Tom, he didn't run, but Tom Cotton is very good at media. He would have skewered her alive. But Trump didn't hold her accountable on a lot of this stuff. So it's unfortunate that he didn't rise to this moment. But the truth is that this scares me. This scares me. The Democrats and the media, how they're covering for her, how they covered for Joe Biden. And even back in 2016, one of the things that concerned me the most was going through the Podesta emails and seeing how chummy the media were with Hillary Clinton. Like, oh, can you change? Well, this is what we prefer the headline to be. Look it up. That's what the headline was. Like, there's eating dinner together, all this kind of stuff. Just the buddy stuff with the media. They clearly had a favorite. They clearly preferred her to Trump, and they clearly prefer Kamala to Trump. And it pushes them to the point of being really unprofessional. They didn't cover the Trump White House with the same standards that they covered the Biden administration. Of course, they were much harsher. They're just really unfair and unprofessional. And they didn't decide to really criticize Biden until he made himself to be a fool. They had questions about Afghanistan, when that happened, because that was such a debacle. But CNN, was it Caitlin Collins? Is that her name? She went on Bill Maher. I think that's her name. And she, was talking about how, they're fair. They scrutinized Joe Biden. They covered when he was, his questions about him being senile. Okay. But that was when you guys clearly wanted him to be replaced. So that was part of the plan. You guys are all part of the plan. So if the media cannot be honest, if our journalists cannot be honest, if the candidates cannot have a debate where they hold each other accountable and go back and forth, that should have been Kamala Harris's job. If Donald Trump said something that wasn't true, to fact check him, that should not have been the moderator's job. And if they were going to interject like that, which they obviously did, it shouldn't have been one-sided, because there wasn't one person lying on stage. And even after the Biden Trump debate, after Biden just totally collapsed, they were still like, oh, it's just so hard for people to really debate Trump because he just lies so much. It's hard to fact check. He just lies so much, as if they're not lying so much. And it's not just the amount of lies that they tell as well. It's the content of the lies. The very fine people hoax that has been debunked, there was no reason for it to have been what it was, because that's something you don't have to do a lot of research to debunk what he said. You don't have to scour C-SPAN to find some obscure clip. You could just literally just go watch the same press conference where Donald Trump said about fine people on both sides, that he clearly said, I'm not talking about neo-Nazis though. I condemn them totally. You can very easily find that. But people took that, Joe Biden took that, made it a centerpiece of his campaign, a centerpiece of his criticism of Trump, and he kept repeating it, and Kamala Harris repeated it, and they know it's a lie. But the point is that they want to make Donald Trump as the person who takes all the sins of America's racism upon his shoulders. And it is not just something that villainizes him, it villainizes his supporters, and it's a condemnation on America if you pick him, if this thing were true, but it's not. And she talked about how divisive Donald Trump is. And he could have pointed out these, he did mention some of the lies that they tell about him is probably the reason why he was almost killed. There's no questions about that, by the way. And he mentioned Russia. And that's a big one too, that the media pushed, this idea that he was a puppet of Russia. Something that was started, by the way, from Hillary Clinton. Something that Joe Biden, by the way, knew that was started by Hillary Clinton, that they just continued and pushed and pushed and pushed. But things like that, and things like the very fine people hoax, those are things that are meant to break America apart. And the media just goes along with it because they don't like Trump. It's insane. And the fact that they're willing to do this, now they're willing to do it to just about any Republican. And unfortunately, Trump, in a lot of cases, makes it really easy to be a target for the media. I'm glad that he fights back, but he doesn't always fight back well. Okay. He doesn't always fight back well. And he didn't fight back well last night. But it's so frustrating because he's not rising to the moment here. But these people are so evil. They're so evil. What they're doing, what they've done, the things they plan to do is evil. And they need to be stopped. And there's just nobody who wants to hold them accountable unless it's the American people. But there's so many low information voters out there. There's so many people who just want to remain willfully ignorant because they don't like Trump and they haven't liked Trump. And he hasn't given a lot of people who don't like him to like him. There's some people who go down the rabbit hole and they see that, oh gosh, people lied about this. They lied about this. The media lied about this. I'm like, oh my gosh, they lied about everything. And then they, like the Brandon Straka, who started the walkway movement. He realized they lied about the him mocking a disabled reporter, which those are one of the things that I debunk on my Trump hoax video on YouTube. Please go check that out if you haven't, and please share it around. So that was one thing that started him on his journey to waking up and realizing that the media lies about so much. And I wish we could give the Matrix pill to all these people so they could wake up. But there's still things, about Trump that even folks who know most of these things that they push are lies, that there are legitimate reasons to not like him and they still don't like him or whatever. But these people are dangerous. And the way they fawn and cover are dangerous. But Donald Trump, he didn't even mention that they lied about Joe Biden, and they didn't ask it either. They didn't ask it either. So they had no interest of really grilling her. And unfortunately, Trump did not do his due diligence. He didn't. Um, but regardless, they need to be punished, man, for these lies. For these lies. They know she lied, and they don't care. They don't care. And it's beyond don't care. They're gaslighting everybody. Like, you didn't hear any lies. What are you talking about? So even let me see this Mark Lamont Hill. There's a couple reporters that were pretending like they didn't know that that Kamala Harris wanted to pay for trans surgeries or whatever. So one of them was Mark Lamont Hill, and he said she wants to do transgender operations on illegal aliens who are in prison. Is the wildest thing I've ever heard in any debate ever. Well, it's also true. K-File Harris told ACLU in 2019 she supports cuts to ICE funding and providing gender transition surgeries to detain migrants. So, I mean, there's videos of her talking about how she helped to push for gender reassignment stuff for prisoners. They do that stuff in California, man. I've covered some of those stories. Biden tried to appoint a judge who put a serial child rapist in a woman's prison because he said he was a woman. So these people are nuts. And I wish that would have been a question. But that must have, I don't even remember him mentioning that though. I mean, he must have obviously said it, but at the debate, but I must have missed that, but clearly he must have said it because folks are bringing it up. I didn't watch it a second time, but okay. So I am going to play some clips, but I have so many thoughts coming out at once, but okay. So I had mentioned there were some specific things that I thought Trump should do to push back on Kamala Harris, and he didn't do those things. Now, I wanted him to mention if they brought up a woman should be able to do with whatever she wants with her own body, and he should mention, well, they didn't feel that way when they were doing the mandates, and he did bring up COVID, and well, they had brought up his job loss and other stuff, and he said we got what they're saying they had were bounce back jobs, and I don't get enough credit for the recovery. We made masks, we made ventilators, and he didn't mention the vaccine. I think that was just like an accident on his part. That we gave him a vaccine that was ready to go. He could have said that. He didn't say that, but he didn't push the fact that they had all these crazy mandates, that Tim Walz had these crazy mandates that he locked up female business owners. He didn't mention that they tried to use unconstitutional OSHA mandates to make employers make their employees get the jab, that people lost their jobs, that people got kicked out of the military. He didn't mention that. So that was a big miss to me. She brought up the fact that he was a felon and had all these charges against him, and he defended himself and tried to explain some of the cases. And I don't think he mostly said that they were prosecuting him. And by the way, her mannerisms, as upset as I am at Trump and his performance, her mannerisms were so annoying. And I think they're performative for the TikTok community and realm, and those young people who will make clips or whatever and do the Yas Queen, Brat Summer, all that stuff. But those, kind of movements that she was making, those gestures, I don't know how well that tracks in normie world, in real life, when people are watching that at their, when she's actually on the TV, how that's hitting. And when you're not just thinking about making a TikTok compilation to Cardi B or something. So her mannerisms were not good. And if Trump could have just nailed it on the policy and stuff, she would have really lost, I think. But she got him good. She did. And I'll show you guys an example. But he didn't mention the mandates, when she brought up that he was a felon, and he brought up, well, they're prosecuting me, they're coming for me, political persecution. What he should have did was point out the fact that Kamala Harris has a history of targeting and prosecuting political opposition. And he could have brought up David Daleiden, who exposed Planned Parenthood for selling baby body parts. And they went after him. And Planned Parenthood always been a supporter, always been a donor, but they went after him. So she has a history of going after political opponents, and people could look that up, etc., and know how extreme that she is, and that she shouldn't be trusted with power. He did not mention her locking up moms for truancy. He didn't mention, you know, stuff that Tulsi Gabbard said about her locking up people for marijuana and other stuff like that. And it's interesting that she, you know, locked up people for that stuff. And in the 2019 ACLU thing, it kind of hinted that she would be willing to, not kind of hinted, but decriminalize hard substance drugs, or that she bragged about, like, you know, doing marijuana or whatever when she was on the Breakfast Club. And that's really, to me, the main sort of issue when people play that clip of Tulsi Gabbard coming for Kamala Harris. It's the hypocrisy. I did this thing, and I locked up all these people, and I'm laughing about how I did this thing on the Breakfast Club or whatever, and I did inhale, you know, which just trying to look cool. And I don't know if she actually did pot or not, but she's just fake. So he missed so many opportunities with that stuff. And it was just disappointing and frustrating. But let me talk about some good stuff. So his closing argument was good. Unfortunately, it should have came at the beginning, and it should have been the theme of the entire debate, which he said, where were you? Why did you do this stuff for 3.5 years? So that's a really good point. And he did mention at another point in the debate, like, why don't you just go wake up your boss, wake him up at 4 p.m.? That was a funny line. Wake him up at 4 p.m. and go have him sign stuff. It's like, you're still in the White House. He mentioned, like, where's our president? If you can do stuff right now. So that point did come up, but he should have said at the very beginning, mention the fact that she is the vice president, and any promises that she makes, there's time to do it now. Why is she talking about day one? And day one started like about 3.5 years ago. So why didn't she do it then? Okay. So I'm going to show you his full closing statement, because I feel like I've gone too negative for too long. So I want to I want to show something good that he did, but I wish it was more cohesive throughout the entire thing. Like, her theme was Donald Trump will lie, Donald Trump same playbook, insults, blah blah blah. Now she obviously was the meaner person, but then he lost his cool and said stuff like she hates Israel, she hates Arabs. I'm like, that's not gonna play. You know, he really lost himself, and I'll show you the moment where it went haywire. But let's watch his closing statement.
So she just started by saying she's going to do this, she's going to do that, she's going to do all these wonderful things. Why hasn't she done it? She's been there for 3.5 years. They've had 3.5 years to fix the border. They've had 3.5 years to create jobs and all the things we talked about. Why hasn't she done it? She should leave right now, go down to that beautiful White House, go to the Capitol, get everyone together and do the things you want to do, but you haven't done it, and you won't do it because you believe in things that the American people don't believe in. You believe in things like, we're not going to frack, we're not going to take fossil fuel, we're not going to do things that are going to make this country strong, whether you like it or not. Germany tried that, and within 1 year, they were back to building normal energy plants. We're not ready for it. We can't sacrifice our country for the sake of bad vision. But I just ask one simple question. Why didn't she do it?
I did like that line. I just want to point out that we can't sacrifice our country for bad vision. You have bad ideas. She says her values haven't changed. So at the end of the day, she wants to find a way to implement some of her crazy values. And you can have a lot of ideas, and liberals have a lot of ideas, lefties have a lot of ideas and glorious plans like socialism, communism, all that stuff. It just hasn't, real socialism, communism hasn't really been tried. Like they always have these ideas. It's like, but no, we can't afford to sacrifice our country for your cockamamie ideas. We can't afford to sacrifice our country for your Green New Deal garbage. We can't, the car situation, our energy situation, we're not, as he said, we're not there yet. So you can have all these ideas, but you can't just experiment with the American people in this kind of way. It doesn't lead to a good thing. It doesn't lead to a good thing. So I thought that was a good line in his closing. I did. And this question about why haven't you done it for 3.5 years?
We're a failing nation. We're a nation that's in serious decline. We're being laughed at all over the world. All over the world, they're laughing. I know the leaders very well. They're coming to see me. They call me. We're laughed at all over the world. They don't understand what happened to us as a nation. We're not a leader. We don't have any idea what's going on. We have wars going on in the Middle East. We have wars going on with Russia and Ukraine. We're going to end up in a third world war, and it'll be a war like no other because of nuclear weapons, the power of weaponry. I rebuilt our entire military. She gave a lot of it away to the Taliban. She gave it to Afghanistan. What these people have done to our country, and maybe toughest of all, is allowing millions of people to come into our country. Many of them are criminals, and they're destroying our country. The worst president, the worst vice president in the history of our country.
Yeah, so that it was a good closing line, especially about the energy and them being in Pennsylvania. She really want to say, no, I'm for fracking. I made it clear in 2020 that I'm for fracking. I'm not going to ban fracking. She didn't make that clear in 2020. That's not true. When did you make it clear in 2020 that you weren't suddenly against fracking? And I think her evidence for that is just the fact that they haven't done it. And she's running with Joe Biden. He didn't want to ban fracking, but Joe Biden literally was like, we're going to ban this, we're going to ban that. Like he said crazy things about energy and stuff too. So he's got to get some crazy ads on in Pennsylvania and just hammer her with her own words about fracking and so on. She said that she wanted to get rid of this stuff, and you can't just make her sound bites go away. The things that she literally said that she wanted to do, and she's like, "Well, I haven't banned fracking as president." Well, you're as vice president. Well, you're not the president, are you? But when you wanted to run for president, you said that you wanted to ban fracking. So why should American people give you a chance? Because we know for a fact that Donald Trump likes the energy. He likes drill, baby, drill, and all that stuff. And gas was under $2. Like, I'm glad it's not $5 anymore, approaching $6. Some places it did get to $6. I'm glad it's not that high anymore, but it's not as low as it could have been. And there's some shady stuff that the government has been doing to keep certain prices of different stuff down, but we'll have to cover that another day. But this why didn't you do it? Why didn't you do it? Why didn't you do it? Mentality should have been like just the whole entire laid out theme, and he didn't. There's other times we kind of brought it up, but he didn't really hammer it. He also wasn't specific enough. That was a really big problem. Like he was specific about dogs being eaten and stuff by Haitian immigrants. He's like, they're eating the dogs. That is all what everyone is talking about, and the moderators push back against those reports about in Springfield, Ohio, and pets being, eaten and stuff. There's residents that are saying it's happening. There's officials that are saying there aren't any reports, so that's what the moderators push back against Trump regarding it. That was not more important than mentioning Lincoln Riley and other victims who have been killed. There've been people who've been killed in car accidents by the Haitians, by them not knowing how to drive and just driving crazy. So they're like, if people immigrate, they need to come in here legally and they need to properly assimilate into America. Dumping 20,000 people in a town of like 60,000 causes problems. we need to do immigration properly. And there are better ways to convey the issues instead of they're eating your pets. So that was the wrong way how to handle and address those issues. Like there have been children who've been raped and murdered by migrants. There's terrorists who have come over and been caught, and just a lot of opportunity that he just missed. Him talking about world leaders not respecting us. People were very upset with the Afghanistan withdrawal. He could have talked about the British Parliament being upset and people condemning America for our response. There could have been more specific things like that, but a lot was too broad. Like, they're coming in, they're doing this, they're doing. He repeated that so many times. And I know he's, not super detailed oriented as far as like in these different debates, but he just really needed to do better. So there's something going on in right-wing media right now that I don't understand, because JD Vance, and I was upset and I covered this at the time, said that if there was a bill that came across Trump's desk to ban abortion, that Trump would veto it. And people were ticked off. I think that was what really set like Lila Rose off, saying, well, if you're not going to do pro-life policies, you don't need pro-life votes. And that just caused so much heat for Trump. It's also like the 6 weeks, those comments and stuff, that was a big, point to for his comments about the Florida amendment bill. Ballot proposal. So there's a couple things that really made people upset, but JD Vance's comments was another thing that was enraging. So they asked Donald Trump, would you veto a bill? Because that's what JD Vance said. And Trump said, well, JD, he and I didn't talk about this. And I suspected that could be the case. I threw that out there when I was doing analysis of that. I'm like, I wonder if he even talked to Trump, like if he had the clearance to even say something like this, because this is a big freaking deal. So apparently he didn't have the clearance to say that. They didn't talk about that. And Donald Trump, he dodged that. And he pivoted by saying that it doesn't matter. He's like, it's back to the states where it should be or whatever. And he tells a story about like all these people wanted it at the states. Everybody, Democrats, Republicans, all the scholars. No, the scholars, specialists, they agreed that Roe v. Wade was a bad law. Democrats still want it though, because like Ginsburg thought it was bad law, but because it was rooted in like the right to privacy, but she still thought women should have a right to abortion. So, and people wanted it overturned, but not just so it could go back to the states and the states could decide whether or not they want 9-month abortions or something. Pro-life people and Republicans, because it's in their platform, they want abortion to be banned nationwide. They want the 14th Amendment to recognize the preborn, which I don't see why it doesn't right now, but they wanted it to be evident that it recognizes preborn, which would ban abortion. So he's not accurate when he says that, but he said it would go back to the states where the people can decide whatever they want at that level, but you're not going to get the votes. And he mentioned Kamala Harris. She's out here saying that they're going to codify Roe. She won't get the votes. She's just stringing people along like they did with the student loans. So that was an interesting part of the debate. And he mentioned how they kept saying, we're going to cancel student loans. We're going to cancel student loans. And there was obstruction, like stopping them from trying to do their unconstitutional thing that they were trying to do with student loans. And basically they tricked all these young people and they gave their hopes up with something that they really couldn't do. It was just a promise to get people to vote for them. So that was a good moment from Donald Trump. That was a very good moment for Donald Trump in the midst of that. But him dodging, because they kept trying to get him to answer, and he's just like, it wouldn't matter. So him dodging the would you veto the bill probably means that if they got one to his desk, he would sign it. And I know that people, I don't know, who want him to be all like moderate on abortion, it's like they're going around right now saying, um, like Vivek, for example, was like, Trump made it very clear what his position was, that he wouldn't ban abortion. No, that's not actually clear because he dodged the question. But I'm glad that he dodged, because that showed hope for pro-life people, that if by some chance they got this to his desk, got some kind of, measure to preserve life in a positive direction, that he would actually do the right thing. So they're like downplaying that moment. Like, I think he should have like been, more courageous or whatever. But the fact that he dodged means that he's probably not going to veto an abortion ban if it magically, somehow, by the grace of God, happened upon his desk. So let me play that part from Vivek.
I do think the strongest moment for either candidate that'll matter 3 weeks from now is actually Donald Trump being crystal clear on his position on abortion. Kamala Harris and their campaign have consistently been stating outright, as though it's a fact, that he would sign a federal abortion ban. He did a good job tonight saying that this is an issue for the states. It's an issue where different Republicans may even differ. But he got a chance to make his position known on one of the issues where Democrats were trying to hang Republicans out to dry. And I thought he excelled at that. It's the most underappreciated part of tonight.
Yeah, it's an underappreciated part of the night, but for different reasons, bruh. He didn't make it clear. He made it clear, saying it should be up to the states. It should be up to the states. But he left it very open of the possibility of him signing some kind of ban. I don't think he would sign a total ban, like an abolitionist bill, something like that. That he wouldn't do something like that. He'd have to come around to a lot of different things. So, but if someone put a 15-week bill on his desk, like Lindsey Graham or somebody, why wouldn't he sign something like that? Why wouldn't he sign something like that? So I was happy that there was a sliver of hope, and Vivek and other folks are like, yep, he would not sign a ban. Like, pro-life people are begging for something, and you're trying to snuff it out. I don't understand. That was like the ray of hope the people are begging for, and they're trying to be like, yep, he's just gonna not do that thing. and some people are like trying to reference JD Vance said, okay, but Trump addressed the JD Vance thing, and JD Vance spoke out of turn. So anyway, let's get back to some more of this abortion stuff. So Kamala Harris said that she wanted abortion to be available for she supports Roe v. Wade. And I already talked about how Roe v. Wade, you can actually abort all 9 months if that's what the state decides. Roe v. Wade stopped states in earlier terms from preserving and saving life, but it allows states to kill up until any point that they want to. Okay. So that's why the Mississippi 15-week bill was enough to conflict with Roe v. Wade. And that's why it was overturned, because of a 15-week bill. So under Roe v. Wade, you couldn't protect a baby at 15 weeks of life. So just remember that. That's something I wish Republicans would really hammer in. But let's play some of these clips.
Will she allow abortion in the 8th month, 9th month, 7th month?
Come on.
Okay, would you do that? Why don't you ask her that question?
Why don't you answer the question? Would you
because
veto?
Under Roe v. Wade,
answer the question, would you veto?
You could do abortions in the 7th month, the 8th month, the 9th month, and probably after birth. Just look at the former governor of Virginia. The governor of Virginia said, we put the baby aside and then we determine what we want to do with the baby. President. Will she allow abortion?
So you just heard her lie. They did not fact check Kamala Harris. You can Roe v. Wade. You can do late-term abortions, and I'm sure she knows that. Planned Parenthood is a big supporter of her. Those bigger babies, I'm sure they get a more fetching price than the smaller ones. So I'm sure she is very well aware that you could do late-term abortions under Roe v. Wade. but they don't want the American people to know what Roe v. Wade actually did. People are so mad about Roe v. Wade being overturned, and they don't even know what it freaking was. It's incredible. It's incredible. But here's a moment where the moderator, like you heard Trump mention, Northam. And so here was the moment. I think this was the first time the moderator jumped in, and Frank Lutz's comments is so stupid. He's like, although accurate, it jeopardizes her impartiality when she stepped in. And he compared it to Candy Crowley doing this to Mitt Romney in 2012. This was, I think, worse what the moderators did to Trump. But let's say it's kind of true or half true or mixed. It's because he keeps saying they execute the baby. It's like, are they like taking an axe after it's born and like chopping its head off or something? No. But he's talking about there's instances where the baby survives the abortion and they just don't give it care and they decide to let it die. That is what he's describing as executing the baby. We know because he very specifically talks about it and has a very specific reference. So that is what he means.
In doing it. And I give tremendous credit to those 6 justices.
There is no state in this country where it is legal to kill a baby after it's born. Madam Vice President, want to get.
Yeah, so that was her interjecting there a little bit. So what does Donald Trump mean? He mentions Northam. I'm going to play for you a discussion about the bill that prompted the evil comments from Northam. Okay? So let us watch this in Virginia, where they're discussing a bill that would allow crazy abortions while a mother is in active labor.
So how late in the 3rd trimester would you be able to do that?
It's very unfortunate that our physicians, witnesses, were not able to attend today to speak specifically.
No, I'm talking about your bill. How late in the 3rd trimester could a physician perform an abortion if he indicated it would impair the mental health of the woman
or physical health?
Okay.
Okay.
I'm talking about the mental health.
So, through the 3rd trimester. The 3rd trimester goes all the way up to 40 weeks.
Okay, but to the end of the 3rd trimester.
Yep. I don't think we have a limit in the bill.
So, where it's obvious that a woman is about to give birth, she has physical signs of that she is about to give a birth, would that still be a point at which she could request an abortion if she was so certified? She's dilating.
Mr. Chairman, that would be a decision that the doctor, the physician, and the woman would make.
I understand that. I'm asking if your bill allows that.
My bill would allow that, yes.
Okay. Actively in labor. Actively in labor. She's dilating. Now there's what circumstance would you be like, pause it, we need to kill this baby before it gets all the way out the vajayjay? Yet, there you go. There you go. Which, by the way, people are like, women would never do this. Women would never do this. Look up Kermit Gosnell. Look up Kermit Gosnell. And if you have the courage, Google baby boy A. Google him. The Gosnell movie page should pop up where they have resources and a picture of baby boy A, who I believe was at 32 weeks. Women would go to Kermit Gosnell and he would induce the labor. It's much faster. And then he would snip the baby's spines. And he instructed his staff to do that. So women, the place was filthy and gross and disgusting. If you had some kind of major medical emergency, that's not why you would go to Kermit Gosnell. For care. No. They paid big bucks for him to do those abortions quick and fast and at very extreme late stages beyond what they were, he was not operating legally. But you know what? When that story came out about the serial killer Kermit Gosnell, who's an abortion doctor, the media was mum. If you go watch the movie that came out some years ago, they cover how the media wasn't really doing anything. That was true. I remember when that story was breaking and the media was trying to ignore it. And you know, the pro-abortion lobby, they didn't really want to shine a light on that. And the government didn't really do their due diligence to make sure something like that wasn't happening. So he's in jail. But to be frank, how is he more evil than like what Warren Hearn does? And other late-term abortion doctors or early abortion doctors? Because he's just saving on time. The baby's alive when you kill it in the womb, obviously. But we just find it so horrific that someone would induce the labor and then snip the spine instead of injecting the baby with a needle with a drug that causes a heart attack, or tearing the baby from limb, or starving them to death. For some reason, we find what he did so much more horrific. Why? Out of sight, out of mind? It's so insane when I have conversations with pro-choice people and they're like, well, it's different when the baby's born. Why in principle is the baby different? It's not that the baby is different. You just think that you're entitled to do the crime because it's inside of you. It's not even about bodily autonomy. That's not why women have the abortions. They have it being in their body is why they think they can get away with it. But don't. I am a woman. I love being a woman. There's many great women on this planet, but y'all know there are women who do evil things, and maybe they're not evil all the time, but they can make some evil decisions. So let's not pretend that Kermit Gosnell didn't have clients. Let's not do that. Now that we have watched the bill, let's watch the response from the former governor of Virginia. Okay? This is what Trump keeps referring to.
If a mother is in labor, I can tell you exactly what would happen. The infant would be delivered. The infant would be kept comfortable. The infant would be resuscitated if that's what the mother and the family desired. And then a discussion would ensue between the physicians and the mother. So I think this was if a mother is in labor.
That's it. If the baby survives, a discussion would occur. Okay? Which, by the way, I mentioned this yesterday, I believe. And I've mentioned it a lot. But the Democrats in 2023, it's like one of the first things that happened. There was a bill that was supposed to mandate that there would be medical care for babies that survive abortions. Nearly every single Democrat, nearly every single one, voted against it. So don't pretend like what Donald Trump is saying is so crazy. Please don't. And the reasons why they said that they were voting against it was absurd. Trying to use Jeremiah 1:5 like it's the mother's womb. The baby survived the attempt on its life. It's no longer in the mother's womb. So this isn't about bodily autonomy. This isn't about being in the mother's womb. This is about wanting to be free from the burden of having a living child, a biological live child. That is what it's about. And as Obama said, when he defended, being opposed to such a bill like that when he was in Illinois as a state senator, they didn't want to hinder the original intention of the woman. So the reason why these Democrats are really against mandating that you provide medical care to these babies that survive abortion is because they don't want to remind women that they're murdering their kids. That is what it's about. So people pretending like Donald Trump is so wrong about this. like, I know they don't do half truths or whatever. They shouldn't have even live fact checked him like that. But when he said execute the baby, he means that they would leave that baby to die. They would commit neglect. And by the way, if in any other case, the child's outside of the womb and they don't render care, they don't take care of the baby, they would allow it to die. We would charge the mother with neglect. There was a mother who allowed her 18-month to be alone for 10 days. She went to Detroit, and then she went to Puerto Rico, and the baby died. She was charged. So if she's going to be charged for neglect, you don't think these doctors and mothers deciding to not render care shouldn't be charged with murder? Why is what he's saying wrong? He shouldn't say it like that, because it's not, eloquent or whatever, and people just their mind go to straight fiction. But there's a reason why he's using specific examples that are horrific and ghoulish. I'm sorry if the reality of evil staring you right in the face makes you uncomfortable and you'd rather pretend that it's not real. It is, regardless. It is regardless. The media was a joke. Kamala Harris is a joke. They know specifically what Donald Trump is talking about, because he keeps mentioning it in debate after debate after debate after debate. So it's incumbent upon us to tell people, to show people, etc. Okay? Because people for real don't believe that people do late-term abortions or do something like this. And again, I believe it's evil to do it in the first 6 weeks and whatever. So I don't like all his stances, but the media is evil, man. The media is evil. So Kamala Harris also, used very specific examples of, she used a lot of anecdotes about, because he said this is what people wanted. She's like, really? Is this what people wanted? Going to hospitals and they can't be treated for miscarriages because doctors are afraid that they'll be sued. That's called medical malpractice. The laws need to be really clear, but people need to make sure that they work together to make sure that the laws are clear, not just make abortion available up until the moment of birth so that doesn't happen. There need to be laws, because there are men like Kermit Gosnell out there. You can't just strip them all away. So doctors need to be clear on what the laws are. But if someone isn't treated for miscarriage management, which, by the way, doctors do try to have women wait because they want to know if the woman's going to just pass the baby naturally rather than having to do some kind of surgery. So they do usually want them to wait. But if there was some kind of actual medical issue, instead of getting on camera trying to condemn Republicans or Trump and Donald Trump's abortion bans, you need to get a lawyer and sue the hospital and get a check. That's what you need to do. But people have an agenda. People have an agenda, and they don't legitimately care about women and their health. They're just using tragedy. Never waste a good crisis. That's a Democrat motto. Kamala Harris didn't really take responsibility for Afghanistan. She trashed Donald Trump for working with the Taliban, which Donald Trump said that they're the people like in charge. That's who you will work with or whatever. But it was interesting because on one hand, she's complaining about him negotiating with the Taliban. But then she's also saying that there needs to be a ceasefire, and is the war in Israel and Gaza needs to come to a close. But that is the White House trying to pressure Israel to basically bow to the demands of Hamas, who just want a ceasefire that they're going to break and then go kill more Jews. So they don't want just negotiate with terrorists. They basically want Israel to surrender to them and just wait for more of them to die. And Donald Trump could have mentioned basically what I just said, but instead he said things like she hates Israel and even Arabs. which just made him look not great. Let me get to the moment where she really baited him and distracted him, because I said that I would play that moment, and this is a moment where she really got him off kilter, and it was so obvious. Kamala Harris is no genius, right? You could see this from a mile away. A mile away. A mile away. And he just took the bait anyway. So
instead of fixing a problem. And I'll tell you something, he's going to talk about immigration a lot tonight, even when it's not the subject that is being raised. And I'm going to actually do something really unusual, and I'm going to invite you to attend one of Donald Trump's rallies, because it's a really interesting thing to watch. You will see during the course of his rallies, he talks about fictional characters like Hannibal Lecter. He will talk about windmills cause cancer. And what you will also notice is that people start leaving his rallies early out of exhaustion and boredom. And I will tell you, the one thing you will not hear him talk about is you. You will not hear him talk about your needs, your dreams, and your desires. And I'll tell you, I believe you deserve a president who actually puts you first. And I pledge to you that I will.
Vice President Harris, thank you. President Trump, on that.
Okay. That the conversation was like about immigration, and that's how she just skirted like around. I believe that was about immigration. She basically just skirted around that with mentioning the rallies and stuff. And very obvious what she's doing here, trying to get under his skin. She's wrong about his rallies, though. In the sense that she's right that people do leave early, but let me explain. But she's wrong that he doesn't talk about the American people and their needs and what's important to them. He does that all the time. He does that all the time. That's a lie. And she's never even met him, so she's never been to one of his rallies. But this is something that they came up with to get under his skin, because this is a sore spot. He loves his rallies. He loves his crowd sizes, and this is a really big problem with his ego. Okay, but the truth is that people do leave early. Let me explain why. When people go to a Trump rally, unless you have some kind of hookup to go into like the VIP section or something, people will line up hours upon hours upon hours, way early before it even starts, to wait in line so they can make sure they get inside and make sure that they have a good spot. It's like, I don't know, standing in line for like a Beyonce concert or something like that. People wait for a very long time if they have to go to a Trump rally. And you go inside and you wait for it. You wait outside until they open the doors, and then you wait for a long time inside. And when they actually start the program, it'll be local people up talking, rah, 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 et cetera. Donald Trump is most likely not even there yet. He might not be there for another hour. It sometimes is just scheduled like that on purpose. I never understood it. I don't understand why we don't fill the whole time, or just schedule these things better. Sometimes he's just late. Okay. And then he'll arrive, and usually they'll do like backstage VIP stuff, like take some pictures or whatever. So people are still outside, like, in the arena or whatever, waiting while he's, doing handshakes and maybe some pictures or whatever, kissing babies for whatever. So he comes out on stage, and then they start introducing different people like that might be with him, like different candidates who might, be for Senate or something, he's endorsed, or he might bring out like nowadays, like maybe like Tulsi Gabbard or Kennedy or somebody, but he'll bring out different people on stage and they'll say their piece, and then he'll talk, and he might talk for an hour and a half, maybe longer. So you're like way beyond like church services and stuff. There's a lot of energy. It's fun. Even people who he's not their favorite person in the world, he's still very charming and energetic, and he tells good jokes. He goes off script and riffs a lot, and they're very interesting. They're very entertaining. So Kamala Harris saying that people leave because they are bored. I can't speak to everyone who goes there, but I have left Trump rallies early. There's the last one I probably went to, I left early because Chick-fil-A closed at 10. And I wanted some Chick-fil-A. So it was like, I'm like, okay, he's gearing up toward the end. If you've been to a lot of rallies, you kind of know when he's gearing up toward the end and what kind of the final things are going to be said, right? When I was at the inauguration, I left like maybe 15 minutes early because I'm like, well, it was cold and kind of wet and my feet hurt, but they were numb and they were kind of like this. And I didn't want to stand on the grass anymore. And me and my sister wanted to get back on the train and kind of beat the crowd. And you might want to beat all the people coming out because there's a lot of cars. There's a ton of cars. You know how some people leave concerts just a little bit early because they want to beat the crowds coming out? That's kind of what it's like when people leave early. Or maybe they got school in the morning or something like that. So I saw some people say, I've been to so many Trump rallies and people never leave early. That's cap. People do leave early, but there's good reasons why they leave early. And it's not really because they're bored. If they were bored, they would have left, I don't know, an hour earlier than that, or not waited all the time for him to come and so on. So people do leave early, and I have left early. But again, I was trying to get to Chick-fil-A before they closed. So, and you are trying to beat like all those cars. So that's why people leave early from like the Trump rallies and stuff. It's not really because they're boring. You know, sometimes he says a lot of the same stuff, and some people travel like to rally. I've been to quite a few myself, you know, and certain things, you know what he's going to say, you know, and repeat or whatever, but he's a lot of things, but he's not a boring man. And they're a good time. There have been people, I hope people kind of take her advice and go check out a rally, because there's people who go there and they find out that a lot of people at the rally are actually really cool and really loving and very fun, and that he's kind of funny, and his policies, he's saying stuff that actually makes kind of sense, and a lot of things that he might say in the rally, and then you listen later and you're like, oh my gosh, the media totally lied about what he said. And it starts, you know, spinning people's wheels in their minds, and they're like, oh my gosh, have I been lied to this entire time? So I hope people take her advice and actually go to the rallies. But that's not why she said what she said. She said what she said because she wanted to get under his skin, and we will see how that played out.
Point, I want to get your response.
Well, I would like to respond.
Let me just ask, though, why did you try to kill that bill, and successfully so? That would have put thousands of additional agents and officers on the border.
First, let me respond as to the rallies. She said people start leaving. People don't go to her rallies. There's no reason to go. And the people that do go, she's bussing them in and paying them to be there, and then showing them in a different light. So she can't talk about that. People don't leave my rallies. We have the biggest rallies, the most incredible rallies in the history of politics. That's because people want to take their country back. Our country is being lost. We're a failing nation. And it happened 3.5 years ago. And what's going on here, you're going to end up in World War III, just to go into another subject. What they have done to our country by allowing these millions and millions of people to come into our country, and look at what's happening to the towns all over.
Okay, this is where he gets into they're eating the dogs thing, I think, but I guess I'll just let it play out. But
over the United States, and a lot of towns don't want to talk. It's not going to be Aurora or Springfield. A lot of towns don't want to talk about it because they're so embarrassed by it. In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there. And this is what's happening in our country, and it's a shame.
So, and they try to fact check him on that, and they go back and forth a little bit. But you can see some of her mannerisms, like she doesn't come off great, but he's not. The question was about immigration, and they asked him about a bill that he allegedly killed. Now, he could have said the Republicans already had a very good bill that the Democrats didn't want to cooperate and get signed, and Biden wouldn't have signed it because it was way too strict for them. They want these border agents funded, but they don't want them to actually prevent people from coming in. They want to usher them in. He could have did a nice little thing, they're just ushering them like a usher at a movie theater and just letting them sit into our country, come into our country. Like, he could have went to a whole thing, but he got distracted and started talking about the rallies here. And That's what he should have mentioned. But he should have mentioned, which he did mention at one point, that they can just sign things. They have that power. But he could have specifically mentioned Joe Biden on day one got rid of Remain in Mexico. If they wanted to fix things, they would reinstate Remain in Mexico. Kamala Harris, why don't you call up Joe Biden after this is over and say, hey, Joe, we have to reinstitute Remain in Mexico? He that's what he should have did. That's the route he should have went with. But going to the rallies now, as far as people being paid to go to her rallies, they do bus Democrat. I can't say this about her rally specifically. Democrats do find ways to incentivize people going to the rallies. Now, in the case with Kamala Harris, there's a real excitement there. She's a woman of color. She's a female, and people are getting to know her and stuff. So people trying to downplay people going to her rallies and wanting to hear her and so on. Just there's real excitement there. Just get over it. Okay. There is real excitement there. But in general, we do know that she's having pop stars or whatever, rappers and whoever comes. I wouldn't be surprised if, since Taylor Swift, for example, came out and it's a part of Kamala Harris, that she might do a concert. But Hillary Clinton had Beyonce at, and it still didn't make her president. So these people might go. That doesn't mean they're going to vote. They want to come for a concert. But she does have real excitement, and she definitely had momentum coming in when she replaced Joe Biden. And it was like a breath of fresh air for a lot of Democrats who were very demoralized for the fact that he's basically senile. So, but Democrats, they do incentivize people by, giving them food and other things, like where Republicans don't incentivize like that. When there's an event, some people are like, that I know are like, is there going to be food there? Or like, and they're Republicans, they want to go to this stuff, but the food is like the extra bonus. So if they're going to get something for going, Democrats are good for having incentives for people to go, or unions will bus people. Or when Hillary Clinton was running, I heard about students getting extra credit for going to the rallies. So there are incentives for people to go to this stuff. Are people being paid and actually to sit there or whatever and bus there? There could be people who are paid to be there still on the clock, like maybe if they're union members or something, but I'm not aware of specific things. But I can tell you, in general, Democrats are very good about making sure that people are incentivized to go to different stuff. Absolutely. But I can't speak to specifically stuff going on with Kamala Harris, but we do know that she lures people with pop stars and rappers and so on. But the rally thing was obviously bait, and he took it. And she's happy, and they're probably laughing about it in the back. And I bet all the journalists were giving each other high fives when she did that. You could see that from a mile away. So people noticed that after that there was like a shift, and he was upset, and he really didn't get much of his really focus back after that point. And he had good moments, in it, but she had attack after attack, and there were some things she was saying like that was out of context. But some things, like she mentioned, were tweets. Like he made a tweet recently about the people are like, oh, he's talking about going after his opponents. That was a question, I think, that was brought up by the moderators. And some things that she mentioned, and some, like she mentioned he said about John McCain, and some things like, oh, she's lying, that's out of context. I'm like, oh, but he did say this, he did say this, he did say that. So, Donald Trump has said and done problematic things, and you're probably going to say, I don't care about his behavior. I don't care about his mean tweets. I just care that he's a good president. He's going to do X, Y, and Z, blah, blah, blah. I don't care about that stuff. There's plenty of people who do, unfortunately. And, and people cared about it in 2020. And there's people who just kind of were over him, and they wanted just what they viewed as normalcy. And, they did not get that. They did not get that. But Kamala Harris, she's like, I'm not Joe Biden. she's really trying to be like a generic Democrat rather than someone who's in the White House right now. And Donald Trump didn't do his due diligence by just really pinning life on her and going through her record and how she will not only be the same old, that she will be worse. He did say that she wanted to ban fracking and the guns and all that stuff. Which she said, I'm a gun owner. I don't want to get rid of guns. Okay, you're a hypocrite, but that doesn't mean you're you don't want to get rid of our guns, Kamala Harris. We have the clips. We have the clips. So I'm over on time. I told you guys I could talk about this for an hour. For sure. I want to see if there's anything pressing that I want to address before I let you guys go. I don't know if any of you, some of you were saying thank you for watching the debate. When I said I could have been a meme if I was live recording, there are moments where she mentioned something, and I think it mostly started with the rallies thing, and I just like ran into my kitchen and just kind of screamed into the wall. And I just and there are moments of frustration when I was really mad about the lies about the abortion stuff. I'm like, if you're gonna simp for Roe v. Wade, at least be honest about what it is, you know. And the media fact checking him all the time, not fact checking her. He mentioned that she wants to get rid of private healthcare insurance, which there's evidence of that, obviously. There's lots of evidence there. She shook her head when he mentioned that she bailed out rioters.
She went out in Minnesota and wanted to let criminals that killed people, that burned down Minneapolis, she went out and raised money to get them out of jail. She did things that nobody would ever think of. She went out.
She's shaking her head, but it's true. She supported the Minnesota Freedom Fund. They don't believe in cash bail. They raised a lot of money because of Kamala Harris and Steve Carell and Harry Styles and other celebrities. And they don't care what the person did. They just want to pay cash bail. And there was somebody who they got out who did go on to commit murder. So he's correct. He's absolutely correct. And she needs to be held accountable for that. But the only people, I guess, who can hold her accountable are the voters. But he's correct. But she's shaking her head about something that he's being absolutely honest about. He mentions here about private healthcare insurance.
But she won't improve private insurance for people, private medical insurance. That's another thing she doesn't want to get. People are paying privately for insurance that have worked hard and made money, and they want to have private. She wants everybody to be on government insurance where you wait 6 months for an operation that you need immediately. But she's
saying it's not true, okay?
Just to follow up on that, and correct me if I'm wrong, to reiterate, you support the Medicare for All bill, I think initially co-sponsored by Senator Bernie Sanders. You're also a co-sponsor on it. I believe it will totally eliminate private insurance. So for people out there who like their insurance, they don't get to keep it?
Well, listen, the idea is that everyone gets access to medical care. And you don't have to go through the process of going through an insurance company, having them give you approval, going through the paperwork, all of the delay that may require. Who of us has not had that situation where you got to wait for approval and the doctor says, well, I don't know if your insurance company is going to cover this. Let's eliminate all of that. Let's move on.
She's shaking her head saying that's not true. That's not true. Right there. Right there. Right there. So trying to think, was there any moment? I guess I already talked about the things that she brought up that he didn't really do a good job like rebutting and stuff. He kept saying that she didn't have plans. She did mention some specific things, and she does have some specific things that are really bad as far as economics go that he did not, mention. Even her opening statement, they didn't have opening statement. They had the opening question to Kamala Harris was, people say that, what do you say to people who say that they were better 4 years earlier, before and under Trump? Like, what do you say about those people? And she says, I was a middle class person. Like, okay, what you're just dodging the question here, right? So she doesn't answer the question. She goes into a rant, and then she mentions a couple ideas or whatever that she has. And then she says that Donald Trump wants to implement basically a sales tax because of his tariffs. And so then Donald Trump, instead of saying, did you notice how she dodged the question? She doesn't want to answer the question because she knows that the American people know that they were better under the Trump administration compared to Kamala Harris. Okay. That's why she just dodged the question. Instead, he went off about tariffs and why his tariffs are good. Now, he did mention, like, if my tariffs were so bad, why did you keep them? That was a good point. That was a good point for Trump. That was a good point for him. But she just found ways to really distract him. And she should have been just bodied on so many things. So many things. I'm mostly sad about the missed opportunities. I'm ticked off about the media, how irresponsible they are, and how they just pat themselves on the back for being so unprofessional and not really caring about the American people. And that's what's really annoying, because they like democracy. We have the same democracy, which we're not a democracy, but they see themselves as guardians when they are the executioners, man. Like, please come to the guillotine, please. Like, they do not care about upholding American values and traditions and all this stuff if they're going to just do what Abby Phillips did and cover for the moderators and say, well, there's asymmetrical lying, when you know that wasn't true. So I think I'm going to call it a day. I think I've talked enough about this. Anyway, thank you guys for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed the conversation. It was really a frustrating night. I'm glad I watched it live and didn't go see the Reagan movie, because if I had seen some of the tweets that people were making about it, and I think it would have been really hard to watch it back. I would have been really apprehensive about watching it back, and I probably would have watched it while I was like driving around or something earlier. And I'm just glad that I just, went through the cringe live, I guess, and experienced it the way that it did. But is it going to have any impact? I don't know, because it doesn't. There was I think Reuters reported that there was a report about like 10 independents who said that they were, that 6 of them were leaning more toward Trump, and like 3 of them toward Harris, and 1 of them still didn't know. So really the independents are what were important. And if people still don't feel like they know Kamala Harris, then that's bad for her. And there was a moment that was really bad for Donald Trump. They asked him about a healthcare plan, and did he had any plan after all this time of wanting to repeal Obamacare, and he was actually president and they didn't do anything. And, so do you have a plan now? And he said that he has concepts of a plan. That was a really bad moment, because he's like, she has no plan. And he was exposed. So I don't know why he wasn't prepped with that. I don't understand why they don't have an answer. From my understanding, don't Republicans just want to make sure that there's there's transparent pricing for what you actually get, that you know what you're paying for, and that there's more competition across state lines, and hoping that the free market can kind of drive down some of the pricing. I think that's kind of pretty much the gist of what their philosophy might be, I guess. But when he did mention like Obamacare was bad and we had to do what we could to make it as good as it can, because the Democrats wouldn't repeal it. And but he could have specifically mentioned Obamacare had a mandate that was forcing people to pay. Like, you want to talk about Bali autonomy, there's basically a fine for being alive and making people have insurance. And if you didn't, you have to pay. And the amount would go up every year. So they at least got rid of that mandate. And that was a good thing. So, if Kamala Harris is in office, she's going to force the American people to do things like this, et cetera, et cetera. Like there's a way to go with that, but he didn't. And so that was a moment that was really bad for him. So I just wanted to throw that out there too. But I don't know how much this will be in people's minds. People are running victory laps as far as like on the Democrat side today. From the polling that I've seen, there's a lot of polls saying that she definitely won the debate, but on important issues like the economy and other stuff, Trump seems to still be number one in people's minds. So she still has a long way to go, and he can still trash her at his rallies and focus his attacks. They're not going to cover a lot of those attacks. He's going to still have to go on shows, and JD Vance is going to have to go on shows, and he's going to have to do media. I don't know how much she's going to continue to hide from the media. She will probably still do it a lot, but he's going to have to get out there and really do some killer ads in targeted areas to make a difference here. So it's his election to lose, man. It's his election to lose. But I'm going to say something that will probably tick some people off, but a lot of the issues and hangs-ups that were apparent last night with Trump were warned about in the primary, particularly from like Ron DeSantis, for example. And the fact that he didn't do any primary debates probably wasn't a good thing. I understand why he didn't bother participating, and people still probably would have voted for him, but it would have been good practice for him at the very least. And if he didn't survive the scrutiny from other Republicans, then and I guess he didn't need to be there the other night. So what Republicans have chosen to roll this boulder up the hill, and if you don't get it up there, we're going to have Kamala Harris. So but if it's too hard to get up the hill, that was still a choice that Republicans did make. So get to pushing. Get to pushing, I guess. Anyway, thank you guys for joining me. I want to remind you guys, if you live in Michigan or you like to drive, someone said they're from Chicago, and if they could, they would drive up there, and they said just to come and watch the movie with me. That's cool. And that's very flattering. So on Thursday, a showing of Am I Racist? That's a Daily Wire film by Matt Walsh, will be played in the southeast part of Michigan. So if you go to blacktnews.com, on my website, I have some information there where you guys can click on it and get information for the tickets. It includes pop and popcorn, and there's an after party, and there'll be food at the after party and stuff too. And one of the producers from the movie, who's actually in the movie, will be there as well. And of course, I will be there as well. So it'll be a good time if you can make it. So I encourage you to come out. So again, you can find the information at blacktnews.com on my website. It's right on the homepage. And I did post about it on Facebook, and I did post about it on YouTube. And so, and I did a TikTok about it. So the information is out there, but you can find it on blacktnews.com. The link is there. Please check out different articles, videos, etc. on the website. Please share my video about the Trump hoaxes that I debunked, find people hoax, other stuff like that. Check out different merch that's available on the website. Please check out my book, of course, God is Blatantly Against Abortion. Kamala Harris did say, you can support abortion, and they don't use the term abortion really, but you can support a woman's right to choose and still, and not violate your faith. That's not true. That's not true. The Bible, is very upset, makes it clear that God has an issue with the people of God not doing justice as far as child sacrifice goes. And we're all made in the image of God. And that's an image bearer. It doesn't matter if the baby comes at an inconvenient time. That's an image bearer of God that you are destroying. So I'm going to have to do a specific reply to that. But I lay out in this book rights, science, politics, all that stuff. But some common objections or criticisms that atheists will have about the Bible and challenging passages or whatever passages, and I debunk some stuff that they say. But I also make the case that the characteristics of a Christian should not lead you to the conclusion that abortion should be okay. Not beyond it being wrong to kill a baby, like the reasons why someone might come to the conclusion that they want to have an abortion are antithetical to what is taught in the word. So I make that case as well. So if you haven't gotten this book, I encourage you to get the book and read it and share it. I do have a second edition now, so it's updated. There was like an extra 30 pages worth of content. I did take out like the bibliography because there's like endnotes and there's a bibliography. So I did take out the bibliography, but there's still extra 30 pages. So it's about the same length, but like most of the new length is actual content instead of like double sourcing. So it's, you know, a good upgrade. So anyway, go check it out. God bless you guys. And